the person who had this big agenda and they're going to come in and they're going to do things. When that agenda evaporates, all you board members that are out there who are the other board members who knew that couldn't happen, you need to take that person, literally rush in and give them some other projects. Because if you don't, that agenda vacuum will just suck in something in there, whether it's, I want to get rid of the rest of this board, or let's get rid of management, or fire the landscape company. And that can all create, all those things could create a lot of turmoil.
HOA Insights is brought to you by 5 companies that care about board members: Association Insights and Marketplace, Association Reserves, Community Financials, HOA Invest, and Kevin Davis Insurance Services. You'll find links to their websites and social media in the show notes.
Hi, I'm Robert Nordlund of Association Reserves.
And I'm Julie Adaman with Adaman Inc. And this is HOA Insights, where we promote common sense
for common areas. Welcome to episode 114, where we're again speaking with management consultant and regular co-host Julie Adaman. Today we'll be talking about what we heard in episode 112 2 weeks ago in a Board Hero episode titled An Unfortunate Story. The truth is that sometimes bad things happen at your association. Now, from our perspective, we've seen the cycles that some associations go through. Some troubled years followed by some recovery or turnaround years. So neither the good years or the bad years are permanent. So if you missed that episode, number 112, or any other prior episode, take a moment after today's program to listen from our podcast website, hoainsights.org, or watch on our YouTube channel. But better yet, subscribe from any of the major podcast platforms so you don't miss any future episodes. And those of you watching on YouTube can see the HOA Insights mugs that Julie and I have.
Our merch,
yes, that we got from the merch store. And you can browse through that merch store from our hoainsights.org website or the link in the show notes. And you'll find we have some great free stuff there, like board member Zoom backgrounds and some specialty items for sale, like the mugs that we showed. So go to the merch store, download a free Zoom background, take a moment, look around, find the mug that you'd like, and email me at podcast@reservestudy.com with your name, shipping address, and mug choice mentioning episode 114 mug giveaway. And if you're the 10th person to email me, Julie, I look forward to the day where we say you're the 50th person or the 100th person.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. That's going to be hard on the admin staff. But if you're the 10th person to email me, I'll ship that mug to you free of charge. We enjoy hearing from you, responding to the issues you're facing at your association. So if you have a hot topic, a crazy story, or a question you'd like us to address, you can always contact us at 805-203-3130 or email us at podcast@reservestudy.com. But today's episode is what we felt a necessary follow-up to episode 112. Sometimes bad things do happen at an association, and we didn't want to leave you hanging. So, Julie, how do associations get off track?
Let me count the ways.
Good answer.
There's so many ways they can get off track, but get off track they do. And just as you had said earlier, is that it is a cycle. It's always a cycle. The association is always in a cycle. There some really terrific people come in and they manage the place very well. They're engaged. They know how to deal with their homeowners and the problems that come up. They communicate well. They might have to do something unpopular like raise assessments, which of course puts the antenna up of all the people out there who don't want to raise assessments. And no, we're spending too much money, and it kind of feeds on itself. And for one way or another, whether the good people get sick of it or it's just their time to get off, then the people who come in and want to do whatever they want to do, whether it's assessments or anything, the agenda that they have, and then the association kind of takes that little down dive and it stays on the bottom for just about as long as the rest of the homeowners can take it. Could be 2 years, could be 5 years, could be a year, don't know. And then they vote them out and newer people come on and it just makes the cycle.
Yeah, that's the election process. So
yep.
Again, I've been thinking about this in advance of our conversation, but just some of the words that you've been saying, there is maybe a happy medium where there's not too much trouble and not too much success. Because once it gets down below a level of tolerance, then you're going to get more people that want to run for the board and say, hey, this is not good. Is it also a little bit like the good board members and the good years that you were describing, people doing a good job? They're lifting the association up and that is a unstable situation where it requires so much effort to keep it going? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it can, yes. I mean, that is one circumstance. There's, like I said, for the ups and the downs, there's usually several different reasons or a combination of weird reasons or weird and not weird reasons. But yes, so if you have a great board, and I have, in fact, the last time I actually managed these many years ago,
Okay.
I had fantastic board. I mean, and I was very blessed. I had a fantastic board for 4 out of my 5 years at that particular community. I was on site, GM, and they were just amazing. And then a couple of those people kind of segue off the board because, they've been on the board for 5 years or 4 years,
Normal.
and they've got other things to do, very normal. And then the Dissident group, at least 1 or 2 members got on, and, the fortunes change. Especially if you're in the management end of it, but actually this applies to board members as well. If you're a good board member and you come in and do a fantastic job for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, people have a tendency to take that for granted. They're, oh man, this is so great. And then after a while, it's like, wait a minute, how come they're not doing this or they're not doing that? And they must be doing something wrong. Or if you're paid staff, it's, well, why are we paying that person so much money? And all of a sudden, all those little naysayers it kind of gathers up like a gathering storm. And depending on how the board reacts and manages that gathering storm, the board that's there can often determine where the association goes. And what seems to be happening now, as I talk to lots of people in the management world, is that the board members who are doing a good job, and they're always getting, if you're standing up front, you always have a tendency to get shot in the rear. So the ones who are getting shot in the rear are at the point where there's like, I don't even want to finish out my term. So it's become difficult to find good board members because the good board members feel like they're not being appreciated, and they probably aren't. And I would say, as you know, Robert, since COVID, people have lost their marbles as far as they feel completely okay with getting up in your face and yelling at you or cursing at you in public, just doing crazy things. Even in our larger society, there's a lot of it still is going on all the time. And in HOA world, who's going to come get you? The condo cops? Well, there is no such thing. So there aren't a lot of repercussions for that bad behavior. So that is exacerbating the cycle.
Well, another thing I was thinking about was I also use the word COVID. It seems like during COVID, we started to have more distrust in what the truth was and who's telling the truth. And you add that to social media.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, the credibility of your honorable people is more readily attacked because, who knows, a juicy rumor, and rumor has no basis in fact, but someone can say it, it can get across, and all of a sudden that person is now in a place that they have to defend themselves.
Yeah, those rumors have legs, and they run right towards the target, the intended target. So yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. That was during the COVID period, and I think Americans have lost so much trust in their institutions, for good reason, in my opinion. But that kind of distrust spills over into the personal. Your HOA or the airline you're going to fly or any kind of thing that we normally would have trusted to do the right thing. And unfortunately, boards get caught up in that. The funny part is that most board members, no matter if they got elected on a specific agenda, whatever, so I want all the flowers to be white, whatever, somebody's agenda. I actually had someone who ran on that, but she had to walk it back. She was actually a great board member. She ended up being a great board member, but she wanted everyone, this is in Palm Desert, California,
Okay.
just a great board member. But when she first was there, she was also the head of the architectural committee, and she wanted everyone to plant only white petunias on the golf course side. Now that's 74 units or so. So that kind of went by the wayside, but boy, she had it. But no matter what it is, it's, you could be doing, most board members get elected because they really want to do the right thing. It may not be the right thing really as far as professionals go, and we think, well, that's not smart, but they really want to do the right thing, and they feel they have a sense of duty. Most of them do, I would say. Whether they know how to execute that duty, is up for debate. But they're trying to do the right thing. Most of them.
Well, I want to follow up on that because the lady, just like you said, the lady who had this idea for white flowers, and you said that later on she became a good board member. And what changes when you have someone saying, I want to, or I like this, and they run for the board and then they get on the board? What then happens? Is it a matter of seeing the facts where they're finally confronted really with the facts?
Yes, it absolutely. And I call that a seat at the table of knowledge.
I like that.
Because of the folks who, let's just take the people who want to lower dues. I mean, that's always a big thing in HOAs where it's too much money, blah, blah, blah. And it can be, or typically it's not. But they just, because in this world, what we do is we are dealing with people's living arrangements, their money, their finances, and their home. So it's very personal to them. And boy, they sure don't see why we have to spend all this money on whatever. But they get elected on a very narrow agenda, such as I'm going to, lower dues by 20% or whatever it is. But once they have that seat at the table, they often realize, oh, I can't do that. And that you'll see that happens in city councils and people who run for any kind of office. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then they get in there. And either they were lying, number one, or number two, they realize, oh, I can't do that, and they have to walk that back. I like to give them a little grace on that because if a board member or if someone is running for the board and they are the lower dues by 20%, I would hope that the current board would bring them in and sit down and talk with them about the financials and where we're at and why they need to stay where they are. I find that I've seen that actually happen. And I find that people who are running pretty much don't want to know that information because they've got their platform and they've got their supporters and they want to run on it. And they'd rather deal with it later, or they just won't believe what's in front of their eyes until they are sitting at that board and they are a fiduciary or trustee of the association. And all of a sudden they realize, oh, we can't do this. There's a problem there for other board members and management. What happens is the person who had this big agenda and they're going to come in and they're going to do things, when that agenda evaporates, all you board members that are out there who are the other board members who knew that couldn't happen, you need to take that person, literally rush in and give them some other projects because they will have a tendency to have a lot of pent-up emotion and pent-up energy about that particular issue. Now that has gone away, you got to focus that energy to something else. And I'm sure you have something in your community that needs close looking at, or, put them on the head of the road committee or whatever is coming up that's meaningful, but you can channel that energy, because if you don't, that agenda vacuum will just suck in something in there, whether it's I want to get rid of the rest of this board, or let's get rid of management, or fire the landscape company. And that can all create all those things could create a lot of turmoil. So other board members need to be aware of that.
I really like that idea because I don't want that to get slide on by. Someone coming in and they have great ideas and they know, and everyone knows that they're the new voice, the 1 out of 5 or the 2 out of 5 on the board, and they're going to rattle the cages. And if they start to see the first month's worth of bills and realize that, oh, the landscaper really is $2,500 a month, the pool service really is X $100 a month, whatever it is, and they're like, oh, gee, yeah, I guess we do need to do this. The solution is not to hope that they resign. The solution is get them on, like you said, the landscape committee.
Productive. Make them productive. Yeah.
Landscape committee or the reserve committee. Get them preparing for the roof project next year that is going to be $500,000. Start developing a list of, or the specs, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but get them productive. I love that. And then I want to follow up on this idea of a vacuum. And we've all heard the phrase, nature abhors a vacuum. And you alluded to it earlier that there will be some good years. And I wonder if that causes some apathy among the homeowners that maybe slows down communication because everything's fine. And then that allows an opportunity for an opposing worldview to come in. And the same with vacuum of communication. Vacuum is a bad thing.
That's very true. That actually happens. If everything's running smoothly, people don't really pay much attention to the association because the dues haven't gone up, or everything looks great out in the landscaping and or whatever that type of thing is. In fact, I did a keynote. I was a keynote speaker for a board member retreat for a big management company down in the Coachella Valley in Southern California. And I had a about 300 board members in this room, and we were talking about the communication vacuum, and then we were all talking about how the homeowners have become apathetic. And of course, board members, that's always a problem for board members at one time or another. That's part of the cycle. Apathy is part of that cycle. And when some guy raises his hand in the back, he said, well, we cured that at our association. And I'm like, how? And he says, well, we sent out an email to everyone telling we were going to raise the dues by 45%. And they came running into the annual meeting and they all said, psych, no, we just wanted you to attend the meeting. I don't know that I'd recommend that to everybody, but it was quite creative and it worked.
Yeah, that's certainly a way to get people to a meeting. But I'm not sure if you want to, was it cry wolf? The sky is falling? One of those things. But let's talk about mob action. I think we all have a selfish gene in our body. Was it Dale Carnegie said that the sweetest word is always your own name? We care about ourselves. We care about our self-interest. And if someone is going to tempt us with lower assessments or something that is personally agreeable or personally favorable, I think that's a human tendency to be open. Let me hear a little bit more. Let me hear your story. What's the human dynamic in that getting traction?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right about the human nature. I mean, we are always looking out for ourselves. I mean, that's no matter what, we're always looking out for ourselves. As much as you try not to, when we try to think of others and look out for others, a lot of the times we're looking out for us, and helping someone else helps us. We're good with that, as much as we maybe should do it, even if it doesn't help us, right? But so that's just human nature for the most part. And so when someone says, I'm going to get on this board and I'm going to make sure that we fire this landscape company because whatever the reason is.
I see their employees sitting on the yard, having lunch, and they're wasting time, and we're paying them.
That we're paying them. Exactly. That whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. It's how the pool didn't look good or the snow didn't get removed on time, blah, 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 all the same stuff. But if you're appealing to somebody's emotion on that issue, it's very effective. If you say, well, the snow didn't get removed for 8 hours, and what if there had been an emergency and, your child was choking and we couldn't get the ambulance in there? I mean, they can just go on, and people will buy right into that. It's an emotional appeal. It's very, what I want to say that is, it's very cynical. It's a very cynical way to operate, but they do it all the time. It's all human beings, and everything is politics. I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but it always is in this world, in our world. So that emotional appeal, and then you get people all riled up in their emotions. Then they're at the next meeting with their torches and pitchforks about something. And that literally is mob. That's a mob coming after you. And it does happen. All you board members out there, I would venture to say all of you have experienced that at least once. Usually it's a baloney thing, completely baloney. But everybody's all upset about it, and in they walk.
I'm writing down notes here, and that you add the emotional appeal to a distrust in institutions and the general raised anxiety from COVID, and it's a combustible mixture.
It is.
Is that a fair thing to say?
It is. It's a toxic brew. It certainly can be.
Okay, which is what Helen got herself into. And it wasn't that arguably she really did anything wrong. It was just she had a toxic situation or toxic brew, and the opposing viewpoint got a majority on the board, and she is in the audience rather than being at the board table. And it's very interesting. I really like your phrase, now that the board has a seat at the table of knowledge, you realize it's a lot harder to work magic. And I finally, I don't know if I told you, I finally bought a magic wand. I have it on I bought a bookcase. It's on my bookcase. And so that's for people who say, oh, we're going to be able to take good care of our property and we're going to lower our reserve funding by 20%. And I say, hold on just a minute. And I go get my magic wand.
The wand. It's always say, I have a pen, not a wand.
Oh, okay. Well, I ask them if they want to borrow it because that's what it's going to take. Hey, we are at the midpoint here and want to make sure that we have time because I want to turn the corner here. But let's take a break here and hear from one of our generous sponsors, after which we'll be back with more common sense for common areas.
Tired of low returns on your HOA reserves? With HOA Invest technology available nationwide through SEC-registered Capital CS Group and Keystone Private Wealth, you can now grow your community's funds with competitive, tax-efficient returns while keeping them safe and accessible. Our accounts are held with Charles Schwab, and HOA Invest's API integrated technology gives you daily access to balances, holdings, transactions, Schwab statements, and a nationwide inventory of CDs and treasuries, all in one easy-to-use platform. Ready to grow your reserves? Get personalized strategies and a free investment policy review with HOA Invest, your trusted partner for securing your community's financial future.
And we're back. Okay, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and they're real, and they happen. It's part of the cycles. But Julie, how do you mitigate, how do you minimize bad things going on if you start to see them happening at your association?
Number one, don't ignore it. If you see it, it's happening. And if you see it, it's probably been going on a little bit, longer than you think, because they've been having whoever that is who has that, they've got that going on in their head. And I would say that I think a lot of board members, you're a volunteer, and this job typically takes more time than you were ever told when you volunteered to be on the board. So you're like, oh God, no, I think it'll be okay. Or I just don't want to see it. I just want to have my blinders on and I don't want to see it. I would say once you've seen it, you truly see it, you can't ignore it, and you have to create some sort of strategy to you may not be able to stop the person or stop the cycle from kind of going downhill a little bit, but you can certainly mitigate a lot of it.
I was going to say, treat it like an iceberg.
Treat it like an iceberg, absolutely.
Okay.
Because if there's one guy complaining, there's 50 down below or 10 down below, something like that. Way more than you think. So you cannot treat it like it's not there. It is there. So what are we going to do about that? Well, let's just say, Robert, are they on the board or off the board?
Let's say they're off the board. They're the mob outside that's criticizing the board.
They're the dissident group. Okay. The first thing I would do is, depending on the kind of group they are, but overall, I think the first thing I would do is actually meet with that person personally, or 2 or 3 of them, and have them sit down with a couple of board members and have them actually commit to paper what their grievances are or what they think is going on. And then, to the best of your ability, I would share with them what you can. Obviously, can't share proprietary information, but I would definitely give them, if they, this is costing too much and that's costing too much. And then you can say, well, here were the bids we got for the last landscape contract. Here they are. They're not a secret. In fact, the people are entitled to them anyway. And give them the reasons you did this. Now, they may disagree with your reasons, but you had reasons. This also goes to the fact that hopefully if you have a professional management company or an on-site manager there, you have these kind of records. If you are self-managing, you need to ensure that you are keeping those types of records for just this type of situation. Because if you thought, well, I don't need to really keep this bid from 3 years ago, au contraire. I would keep that stuff for probably up to 10 years, just depending on your association and what goes on there. So that's the first thing I would do is face-to-face.
Okay.
People have a tendency, back when I was a manager at the property I was telling you about, the gal who wanted to do the flowers all white. She was a great board member though. But anyway, when I was there, we had people who would try to, they want to do that kind of thing. They want to tell you this is happening or that's not happening. You know how you deal with that is you just paper them to death. You're like, well, here's what we did and here's where the stuff was, because I was really good about it. The company I worked for at the time was very good about keeping records. And it was, once you've papered them to death, oftentimes they don't want to be inundated with it anymore and they'll just go, okay, or they'll back off. But if not, you just have to keep continually trying to keep that line of communication open with those people personally.
What I'm hearing is the same things we think about with reserves, is that people come to us and they say, we're underfunded. It's going to be hard for us to have enough money for the roof or the asphalt or whatever.
Yep.
What do we do? And we say, well, you need to increase your reserve funding. And they don't necessarily like that, but that's the truth. If they would have done that, that would have prevented the problem that they're into. And here you're talking about meeting with the person or the group, sharing information, sharing the truth, showing them the invoices, showing them the proposals, showing them the governing documents. It means we can't do this. Showing the letter from the attorney that says you must do this. Things like that, where if you're sharing the truth, and if you're being, and this is what I wrote down, being proactive. As much as you can be proactive and transparent, that's going to help. And it'll help in advance rather than always in a reactive mode. But I like saying, hey, we get it. We understand you're disappointed. Can you meet with us next Wednesday? When can we meet with you? And we'll show you some of the reasoning behind what we did. Just put it on the table.
Absolutely, because none of this is particularly secret. The only thing secret in associations are delinquencies. Typically, you can't share with who's delinquent and that type of thing on their dues or assessments. And then other legal matters, such as if you're in a lawsuit or something like that, a lot of that cannot be shared. But some can, and if that's what their worry is, well, it might be worth it to have your attorney look over what's going on and say, what can we share? If he says nothing, you can't share any of this, well, that's what you tell them, and he puts that in writing, and that's what you tell them. However, we'll share what we can when we know it. So you do as much as you can. And I think the truth, Robert, I think you put it in here, the truth shall set you free. No wiser words were ever spoken. I mean, I think those are words of Jesus, right? And so, but
you're going to make me look that up.
I bet you know already. Yeah. I know I do. But it's true. I mean, that applies to everything. Very seldom does subterfuge on the part of board members because they just don't want to deal with it, or they think, oh man, this guy's going to go crazy if we tell him this. That's a short-term thinking. It's better to be truthful about it and then tell them the reasons why. Be truthful. This is what we had to do, and here is why. That's better. Now, if you're going to be proactive about this to keep those people from, coming at you with the torches and pitchforks or the dissident group or whatever it is, it comes back to my favorite word, Robert, which is communication.
For you, it'd be communication.
That's right. It's communication. It's proactive communication.
Yeah.
Continually. If you think they don't need it, you think they don't read it, that means you still need to do it. And once again, I'm going to tell you, there's really no excuse for not putting out your own e-newsletter or something like that. If you're self-managed, there's really no excuse because you can just put up 5 or 6 bullet points, put it into ChatGPT or Grok or any one of the AI platforms, and it'll put out an article for you if that's what you want. A 200-word article, 300-word, boom, it's there, it's done. Make sure and proofread it.
Yeah, proof it.
Yeah, you got to proof it, but still, it's done for you. So there's no excuse not to do that. The tools are there, and they've made your life a lot easier if you are composing that kind of missive to the owners.
Yeah. Well, in advance, I thought, what are the issues that cause problems? And it was lack of communication or communication mix-ups, finances, and rules. And maybe you just, if you sense, I don't know if... Is it sense? We'll get to this. If you sense trouble amiss, if you see the iceberg coming at you, maybe you dial up the communication. Maybe you have a quarterly budget and invoice review that's open to people. And you have a semi-annual rules review committee open to the membership where you just say, hey, is closing the pool at 10 o'clock the right time? We don't care. It just needs to be at a reasonable time. And so let's talk about it.
Exactly. I think that, and I understand from board members' aspect, they're like, I already spending all these hours. I have to do that too. Well, unfortunately, sometimes you do. That last association I was telling you about, that was the last time I actually was a physical manager, right? Was that time? And, there was some big brouhaha going on. I don't remember what for, but this is in California, and this is before you had to have a third party do your elections. So we did them, right? And I worked for a management company that I was on site. So we did all of that. But there was this group who's like, well, how are we going to know that's accurate? You would have a blah, 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 doing their whole thing saying, well, we wouldn't be accurate because you don't want new people on the board. So what did we do? What did the board decide to do? But it kind of was a collective thing, is that we got the most trusted, neutral person in the community that everybody knew, and they did, to be the, she was, what do you call that? She was the
observer of elections or something like that?
Observer of elections. She actually counted the ballots.
Yeah,
and this is a big
Mrs.
place.
Johnson. Everyone sees her. Everyone knows her.
I can
She's
picture
nice.
her to this day. She was nice. She was smart, but just a neutral party that the dissident people liked her, the people who weren't dissidents liked her, and they all trusted her. So when she counted the ballots, everybody just shut up about it. And so, it's a good way to go. When you can go out to members of the community that are supporters of the community, and I'm not necessarily talking they're rah, we love everybody on the board, but they want the best for the community, the supporters who may kind of see some of the dissident points. If you can get those people in as a part of your process as a board member and make them like part of the rules committee or the rules review committee, whatever is the hot button going on at your, or the finance committee or whatever it is, or the reserve committee, whatever that is the hot button in your community. Bring some more people in, because the more advocates you have out there, the better off you are as a board. You want acolytes going out. You want disciples going out, and with truth, not with your board spin, with truth of how things are.
That's right. Not necessarily supporters, but people who are sitting at the table of knowledge, people who know that, oh, no, that can't be the case because I've seen the invoices. I was there last month. The pipeline, and that pipeline of people at the association. It's a pipeline of volunteers. It's a pipeline of committee members. It's a pipeline towards board members. So it's not like who's pro and who's con. It's just building a healthy pipeline of supporters in the community. It may be a building captain. It may be a floor captain. It may be whatever, but people who you share this information with, and that's maybe like a vaccine. It prevents trouble by having people who know the truth and
have the knowledge. It's the knowledge. Yes. And the more people that know that and they're out of the community, you're exactly right. It's like, no, I'm not even on the board, and I am the review invoice committee. And there's two of us, and we review the invoices. We see how they got paid and when they got paid and how much it was and what was it for if there were extras. We review that. And if we have questions,
the board is not paying themselves.
No, the board. It's not It's not a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah. Well, Julie, this is fantastic. This brought a lot of peace to my heart because we wanted to tell the truth of Helen's story in episode 112. We also wanted to be able to share our voice of experience, that we see good times, we see bad times, we hear complaints, and we just wanted to share best practices. We wanted to share to let you know that I think I can say this, okay? You haven't screwed up. It's part of human nature, and we live in a more toxic environment than we have in the past. And Kevin has said that the temperatures are higher, and we need to lower the temperature. So you're hearing it from different people, and we hope we're giving you some good tools here. So thank you, Julie. As always, it's great talking with you. Any closing thoughts to add to wrap up this conversation?
I just want to thank all of you who are board members who have stepped up to do that, because we just don't have enough people who want to do it. And my hat's off to you. I've been a board member several times. I'm a board member on another, not an HOA, but a part of an HOA, like a subcommittee. And so I like being involved, but I know how much time it takes, and I appreciate the work that you do. And I know Robert does. We talk about this all the time. That's why you're the board member heroes.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, we hope you learned some HOA insights from our discussion today that helps you bring common sense to your common areas. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to bringing many more episodes to you week after week after week. We'll be here. It'll be great to have you, and it'll be great to have you join us and share this with other people. Spread the word. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to HOA Insights, common sense for common areas. If you like the show and want to support the work that we do, you can do so in a number of ways. The most important thing that you can do is engage in the conversation. Leave a question in the comment section on our YouTube videos. You can also email your questions or voice memos to podcast@reservestudy.com or leave us a voicemail at 805-203-3130. If you gain any insights from the show, please do us a huge favor by sharing the show with other board members that you know. You can also support us by supporting the brands that sponsor this program. Please remember that the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the hosts and guests, with the goal of providing general education about the community association industry. You'll want to consult licensed professionals before making any important decisions. Finally, this podcast was expertly mixed and mastered by Stokelight Video and Marketing. With Stokelight on your team, you'll reach more customers with marketing expertise that inspires action. See the show notes to connect with Stokelight.